India reaches solar power target 4 years ahead of schedule, sets new goal for 2022.
Here's a summary of the article.
India has achieved its solar power target 4 years ahead of its schedule, as a part of its climate change mitigation strategy, a senior official of the central government's Department of Science and Technology said here on Tuesday. The target of installing 20 gigawatts of solar power by 2022 was achieved 4 years ahead of schedule in January 2018, advisor and head of Climate Change Program of the Department of Science and Technology, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta said. India has now set a new target of achieving 100 gigawatts of solar power by 2022, he told PTI on Tuesday. India was one of the least contributors to global warming that is inducing climate change, but it was feared to be one of the worst affected countries, he claimed. It is a global trend vis-a-vis climate change that least contributors are the worst affected, he added. India is one of the countries with the largest production of energy from renewable sources, accounting for 34.6% of the total installed power capacity, while large hydro installed capacity is 45 gigawatts now, contributing to 13% of the total power capacity. Wind power capacity is 36,625 megawatts, making India the fourth largest wind power producer in the world. 4 of the top 7 largest solar parks worldwide are in India, including the second largest solar park in the world at Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, with a capacity of 1,000 megawatts. The world's largest solar power plant, Bhadla Solar Park, is being constructed in Rajasthan with a capacity of 2,255 megawatts and is expected to be completed shortly, he said. India is promoting nuclear power as a safe, environmentally benign and economically viable source, and with a 2.2% share in current installed capacity, the country aims to achieve 63 gigawatts installed capacity by the year 2032, Gupta added.
This post received a score of 50,199, with an upvote ratio of 93%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
India has a lot of potential for both solar and wind power. I hope they manage to increase the share of solar and wind power production further. Right now it's just 4.5% wind and 2.9% solar. But their plans for 2030 are ambitious.
That seems pretty great for a developing nation. What is the US at?
6.6% wind and 1.6% solar.
Wow, India really is kicking ass.
I wonder if it has to do with the fact that it's easier to create the infrastructure in the first place than it is to replace it. India, as one of the top developing nations, was probably in a pretty good place to just install solar and wind because they needed more energy anyways. To a government with a much more established energy grid, it's probably a lot harder to justify replacing an already working system without even getting into political reasons. I'm more just talking from a pure bureaucratic standpoint. Basically, India has gaps that need to be filled in the grid, America doesn't, which leads to the rapidity of growth for renewables in India.
Yeah, it's easier to build than replace, but it's also easier to cut your $700 billion military budget to create sustainable energy, fund education, fund scientific research, and still have the world's largest military budget. The US just has no reasonable priorities.
Excuse me, yes we do. It's just focusing more on "screw you, I've got mine." Ironically, I'm one of the screwed.
Yep, immobility and stagnation are expected effects of late-stage capitalism.
In regulated super-capitalism, every Nordic country is a highly regulated capitalist country with privately owned businesses, your implied right to entrepreneurship, and no forced and assigned labor, but yet all of them back-to-back have proven to be the highest standard of living in the history of recorded civilization, contrary to any attempt to establish communism in any nation founded by an imperialist past. Resource extraction and low population can provide a very high standard of living, just ask the UAE and SA.
Wow, this is indeed a good news. This is a very uplifting news of the day. All nations should work to meet their climate goals. World need that urgently, and World Economic Forum's following report is a crucial reason, I believe. India is now producing the world's cheapest solar power. EDIT found another important report too. India will achieve climate change targets a decade ahead of deadline, Paris Climate Agreement.
returning the revenue as an equitable dividend in fact, and allows for a higher carbon price which because enacting a border tax would protect domestic businesses from foreign producers not saddled with similar pollution taxes, and also to enact their own, that failing to mitigate climate change will cost us 10% of GDP over 50 years. In contrast, carbon taxes may actually boost GDP, if the revenue is the which not to mention and save lives taxing carbon it and which in poor countries, in the first place. The U.S. according to most of the $5.2 trillion in subsidies for fossil fuels come from not taxing carbon as we should. There is general agreement among economists on carbon taxes whether you consider or it is literally Econ 101 the idea.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.